There is a squat glass jar on the shelf above my kitchen sink tonight, half full of cider vinegar cut with water and a strip of grey flannel soaking in it, kept exactly the way my grandmother Della kept hers through the Great Depression. A jar just like it cleaned every room of Della's farmhouse on County Road 6 outside Tipton, Indiana, through the winter of 1934 and every winter after. The vinegar cut from a jug she paid 11 cents for. The whole cleaning shelf costing her about $2 for a year of keeping house. This is the $2 jar that cleaned the whole house, and why the cleaning aisle hopes you forget it ever sat on a shelf. So pour your coffee, settle in, and tap that subscribe button, because what I do on this porch is spend less, waste nothing, and keep the kitchen wisdom the supermarket would rather you forget. Go look at that cleaning aisle sometime. A bottle for glass, one for granite, one for wood, one for the bathroom, every one a different colour and smell, every one $5 or $6. Turn any of them around and the first word on the label is water. The bit of acid or soap that does the work is a few pennies, and it is the same few pennies no matter which surface the label promises. You are not buying a cleaner. You are renting a colour and a smell, sold back to you one bottle at a time. One spring I hauled 11 of these bottles out from under my own sink and felt like a fool because Della did the very same work out of a $2 shelf. So let me take you right down that real shelf. 6 jobs it did for pennies. Stay for number 5, the brass, because that is the one that cost me the last thing of hers I had left, and I will tell you how I ruined it, so you never do. Number 1, the vinegar jar. This is the workhorse, so I am going to be honest with you, the way Della was always honest with me. This one jar does most of the everyday cleaning in a house. It does not do all of it, and anybody who tells you one bottle does absolutely everything is selling you something too. What the jar does is the wiping, and the wiping is most of what a house needs. Vinegar cut about half and half with water, and that is your counters, your greasy stove top, your window glass, your white down cupboard doors, the sticky amber ring the honey jar always leaves behind. Vinegar is a mild acid, and the mild acid cuts the film of grease and the hard water haze that plain water only smears around and leaves streaked. Wipe it on, wipe it off with a dry cloth, and the glass comes up clear with no streak and no perfume left hanging in the room. Della kept one iron rule about that jar, and this is the one piece of the whole video you must not skip past. One jar, one job. You never pour 2 cleaners together to make them stronger. She never had a drop of bleach in the house, but she would tell you flat with her finger up, you never marry vinegar to bleach, and you never marry bleach to ammonia, because that is not a stronger cleaner. That is a green gas that can put a person on the floor of her own kitchen. Keep the jar plain. Keep it up where the little ones cannot reach it. Crack a window when you are scrubbing anything in a small closed-up room. One jar, one job, and nobody gets hurt doing the dishes. 2 more honest limits, and then I will let the jar be. Do not use the vinegar on stone, on marble, or a natural stone counter, because the same acid that cuts your grease will slowly etch the stone dull and cloudy. And 1 bar of plain soap earns its own place on the shelf right beside the jar, because soap does the work vinegar cannot. Della kept 2 kinds of soap and never once mixed them up. Hard bar soap for the clothes, because it grips into the fibre and stays to do its work. Soft soap, the slippery kind, for the floors, because on laundry it just slides right off the cloth and wastes itself down the drain before it lifts a thing. Use each one where it belongs, and a single bar lasts you twice as long. A woman named Lydia Maria Child wrote that down in a little book called The American Frugal Housewife, back in 1832, and it was already old wisdom by the time she set it in print. 1 jar and 1 bar of soap, and most of a whole house comes clean. That is just what clean used to cost, back before somebody figured out how to sell it to you, a trigger bottle at a time. Number 2. A box of cornstarch. It lives about 3 inches down the same shelf, and it cost less than $1. This is for the one job the jar cannot touch, and that job is grease on cloth. A drop of bacon fat down a wool sleeve, a butter smear on the good tablecloth, salad oil worked into the carpet. Your vinegar jar will only spread that around and drive it deeper into the weave. But grease does not argue with a dry powder. The powder simply drinks it up. Here is how Della did it, and it has not changed a whisker since. The second the grease lands, before you do one other thing, you scrape off what you can lift without rubbing it, because rubbing drives it down into the cloth. Then you dust cornstarch over it, a good generous white heap, and you walk away and leave it alone. 15 minutes for a fresh spot, closer to 30 for a stubborn old one. The powder pulls the grease up out of the fibre and holds it there. Then you brush it off gently, and if the cloth is washable, you follow it with warm, soapy water. On something coarse, a rug or a barn coat, plain table salt does the very same work as the cornstarch, and you likely have more of it. The USDA put this exact method into a government pamphlet, Farmer's Bulletin 1474, back in 1926. So this is not only my grandmother's say-so, it is on file in Washington under a number. Della had 2 tricks on top of what the book said. She would lay the greasy cloth out in the sun a while first, because a little warmth loosens the grease and the powder pulls harder against it. And if she was clean out of cornstarch, she would lay a torn piece of brown paper grocery sack over the spot and press it with a warm iron, and the warm paper wicks the grease right up out of the cloth and into itself. Same idea, no powder needed at all. The only thing this will not do is rescue a grease stain that has already set and dried in, so you have to be quick about it. But quick! The grease goes up into the powder goes into the bin, and the cloth never has to know it happened. Number 3. A single lemon. This one always looked like a small miracle to me when I was a girl watching it. A rust ring on a white apron, on a white tablecloth. That orange bleed where a wet tin can sat overnight, or an old steel pin rusted into the fold. Looks like the plain end of that piece of cloth. It is not the end of it. Della pulled rust out of white linen her whole life, with nothing on earth but a lemon and a sunny windowsill. You spread the stained part of the cloth over a pan of boiling water, so the steam rises up through the weave and opens it. Then you squeeze fresh lemon juice straight onto the rust, let it sit 2 or 3 minutes and rinse it. Then you do it again and again. It is slow work, and the government bulletin says so right in those words, but it will not harm a delicate white cotton or linen the way a harsh store rust remover would. For a stubborn spot she had a second way. Sprinkle table salt over the rust, squeeze the lemon down over the salt, and lay the whole thing flat out in direct sun to dry, adding a little more juice as it goes. The sun does half the work here, and the sun has never once mailed you a bill for it. Now, the old books had far harsher answers for rust. Oil of vitriol, they called it, which is straight sulphuric acid, and Della would not have the stuff in a house with children in it. We do not use those, and I will not tell you how, because a lemon does the same job, and a lemon cannot burn a hole through your hand. One real warning, because I will not tell you a thing that is not true. Lemon juice can lighten a colour, so on anything but a plain white, you test it on a hidden seam first, and you keep it well off of silk. A lemon costs $1. Standing there, believing the good tablecloth was ruined, was always the expensive option. Number 4. Cream of tartar. It is probably already in your kitchen if you have ever made a meringue in your life. A little jar of it on the baking shelf, under $2, and it is nothing but the dried acid left behind from making wine off of grapes. Della kept it for exactly 2 things, the pies and the kettle. And the kettle side of it is for the rust that the gentle lemon from number 3 is simply too soft to beat. This one is only for white cotton or white linen that you can safely boil, and only that. You make up a solution of 4 teaspoons of cream of tartar to 1 pint of water in a pot. You put the stained piece down into it, and you bring the whole pot up to a boil, and let it go until the rust stain is gone. Then rinse it well in clean water. That is the entire method, and it sits in that same 1926 bulletin a few pages over from the lemon. Think of it as the pear to number 3. The lemon is the slow, gentle road for your delicate whites. This is the fast, hot road for your sturdy ones. What it is absolutely not for is anything coloured or silk or wool or anything with a tag that tells you to wash cold or by hand, because the boil will ruin those faster than the rust ever would. And if you're standing there with no cream of tartar in the cupboard, walk right back to number 3, the lemon and the sun, and take the slow road instead. 2 roads to the same clean cloth, the slow gentle one and the fast hot one, and the whole trick is knowing which cloth wants which, the way she did without ever thinking about it. Number 5. The brass. This is the one I promised you at the top, and this is where the salt finally comes off the shelf and the vinegar comes back out of the jar. Della kept her brass kettle and her copper-bottomed pots bright her whole life, and never once owned a tin of the polish they sell for it. She never saw the need, she would say, when you have got salt and vinegar sitting right there in the kitchen already. You put 2 tablespoons of vinegar onto a cloth, work in a 1/4 teaspoon of plain table salt, and rub the brass briskly, and the tarnish and that dull greenish film lift right off of it. The very same rub brightens the bottom of a copper-bottomed pan. Then, and this next part matters, you rinse it well, and you dry it that same minute, so it does not sit and water spot. A tin of brass polish is several dollars. The salt and the vinegar are already in your 2 hands. Now here is what it cost me, because I owe you the failure alongside the trick. When Della passed, the one thing of hers that came down to me was a small brass candlestick off her mantel, and I loved it. And I wanted it to shine like it did in her house. So I rubbed it with salt and vinegar. And the next month, when it dulled again, I did it again. And again, every single time it went dull, because I did not know one bit better. That candlestick was the last thing of hers I had in the world, and I rubbed the shine clean off of it, because I never read the warning she would have known by heart. Lydia Maria Child wrote it down plain as day in that same 1832 book. Vinegar makes brass very clean at first, but if you keep right at it, the pieces soon spot and tarnish worse than they did before. Salt and vinegar is for the working cookware you rinse hard and put right back on the stove, the kettle and the pots. For a good heirloom piece that only sits and catches the lamplight, you use the gentler old way, a little rotten stone and oil, and you leave the vinegar in the jar where it belongs. I know that now. I learnt it about a year too late to save the candlestick, so learn it here, on my nickel and not on your grandmother's brass, and keep the piece she left you looking the way she left it. Number 6. Mildew. This is the last job on the shelf, and it is the one that beats the clock. There's grey-green spots that bloom across a towel you left balled up wet in the hamper, on a shower curtain, on a tablecloth that went into the drawer a hair before it was fully dry. Della learnt this one the hard way, and I will save you the lesson. Mildew eats the cloth. Once it has been growing a while and has weakened the fibres, no scrubbing on this earth brings that cloth back, and it goes to the rag pile. So the whole game is speed. You catch it fresh or you do not catch it. Caught fresh, you do not need the $4 spray at all. You wet the spot, you rub a bar of plain soap right into it, you wash it in warm sudsy water, and then, this is the step everybody skips, you hang it out in full sun, on the grass or on the line, and you let the sun bleach out whatever the soap loosened. Soap and sunlight, and the spot lifts away. That same 1926 government bulletin backs this one, and it is firm about the timing, that mildew has to be worked while it is fresh, before the mould has weakened the cloth. For a mark that survives the soap, you go straight back to number 3 one more time, the lemon and the salt, moisten it, and lay it back out in the sun. The clothesline, Della used to say, was the cheapest remedy in the whole county, and she was right about it. A bottle of mildew spray runs you $4 to $8, a bar of soap is under $1, and the Sun has never once sent an invoice. And cheaper than every bit of it is simply never letting a damp cloth sit folded in the first place. Shake your towels and your dish rags out, and let them dry all the way before they go in a drawer, and you will not have to meet the mildew at all. So there is the whole shelf. 1 jar of vinegar and 1 bar of soap for most of the house. Cornstarch for the grease, a lemon for the delicate rust, cream of tartar for the rust you can boil, salt and vinegar for the brass, soap and sun for the mildew. 6 jobs, a couple of dollars, and not one trigger-top bottle among the lot of them. I will tell you where every bit of this actually comes from, because I do not want you taking it only on the word of an old woman at a kitchen table. Each one of these has a paper standing behind it. The stains and the grease and the mildew all come out of that 1926 government bulletin. The blass and the soap come from Child's little book in 1832. I copied every one of them out by hand, the years and the page numbers and all, into the plain notebook I keep by my own sink, because I got so tired of losing them on the backs of envelopes. That notebook is really all my book ever was. My grandmother's shelf, written down with its sources kept honest, so that it stops disappearing one funeral at a time. Because that is the thing that is really going on here, and it is worth being a little bit angry about. None of this was ever lost. It was crowded off the shelf, on purpose, by an aisle that figured out it could sell you 8 bottles of coloured water for the price of a week of groceries, just as long as you forgot that your grandmother did the whole house out of 1 jar. They did not beat the old way because the old way stopped working. It works exactly as well in your kitchen tonight as it worked in Della's in 1934. They only made it disappear behind a wall of scent and plastic and a fresh bottle every season, and they are counting on you never once walking back to that shelf. So walk back to it, fill a jar, and before you go, do one small thing for me down in the comments, because this is exactly how we keep it from vanishing for good. Tell me what your grandmother cleaned with before all the sprays. Tell me the one thing she swore by. I read every last one of them, and every one is another jar set back on another shelf. This is Granny Pearl, and I will leave the porch light on for you.